everybody, today's video is going to be on the different type of aiming styles you can use while shooting a traditional bow. I hope you enjoy. So I just wanted to apologize for the delay in this video. With it being Thanksgiving last week and I was a little under the weather, I wanted to wait and make it a good quality video. So here it is for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to list off the different types of different shooting styles there are. Now I'll probably miss some because there are so many, it's hard to think of all of them. But there's instinctive, gap shooting, string walking, the fixed crawl, and then there's also split vision. Those are just a few of them, and ultimately what you're going to want to do is just kind of shoot through all of them and then decide which one you shoot the best and which one you like the most. That's the best way to decide. So the first shooting style I'm going to cover is instinctive. It's the way I shoot, so I'm going to have the most experience with it when I'm describing it. And essentially what it is you're picking a spot on what you want to hit. And the smaller that spot is the better. Because if you miss a small spot, you're still going to hit in the area. However, if you were to choose, if you're hunting deer for instance, to aim at the whole deer, that's what you're looking at. If you miss the deer. So the phrase aim small, miss small comes into play a lot on instinctive shooting. And on two of my bows, if I get close enough, I don't know if it'll focus, but pick a spot is actually written right on the upper limb as a constant reminder to pick a spot. So instinctive, basically what you're doing is it's hand-eye coordination after you shoot your bow. Hundreds of times you just develop to know your bow. It's not like throwing a baseball. When you throw a baseball, you just look at the guy you're throwing it to and the baseball lands in his glove. There's no aiming, you just do it. And that's basically instinctive shooting wrapped up. It's definitely the one that's going to take the longest to get proficient because it just takes practice to get good at it. The second type of shooting I'm going to cover is gap shooting. It's definitely the second most common, I would say. And basically this is using the point of your arrow to aim. Now the thing about gap shooting is your form has to be good, because the only way the gaps between your point and where you're shooting will be the same as if your arrow is flying at the same speed, has the same fall off every time. So basically what you're doing with gap shooting is, depending on how far you are away, you're looking down your arrow and you're looking at the point in reference to the target. Now the gap between where you want to shoot and the arrow point is your gap, obviously, and that's how it gets its name. I'll try to get an angle from the back showing you what this looks like. Alright, so right now I'm going to explain gap shooting. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking down your arrow at your point in reference to where it is on the target that you intend to shoot at. Now, depending on how far it is, varies your gap. So what you're going to want to start doing is you want to start about 5 yards away from the target, and you want to put your arrow on the point in which you want to hit. Now you're going to end up hitting high due to the way you're looking at the point in reference of the straight line to the actual target. Now, however high you are from where you wanted to hit is your gap. So if you shot point on at 5 yards and you impacted 20 inches above where you wanted to hit, your gap for 5 yards is now 20 inches below where you wanted to hit. Now what you want to do is you want to go in 5 yards increments and work your way back and work that gap up all the way until you're point on. And your point on is where you put the point on where you want to hit, and that's where you hit. Now as you work past your point on, you're going to start going above where you want to hit, obviously. So when it comes to gap shooting, you'll see a lot of people shooting 3 fingers under, and that's strictly to make your gaps less on top of personal choice. Because basically when you shoot 3 fingers under, your your nock is going to be significantly below your eye, and that distance between where you're looking at the point varies your gaps. So the closer you can get that nock to your eye, which is easier doing 3 under, you'll reduce your gaps because that distance between your nock and your eye is closer. which will make your gaps small. So now, referring to what I was just talking about with the knock being farther or closer to your eye, changing your gaps downrange, that's where string walking comes into play. So what string walking does is, instead of moving your point on the target, you're moving where your hand is on your string. And basically what that does is it either lowers or raises where your knock is in reference to your eye. So when you string walk, you're always point on. Your target reference never changes. You're always point on. But depending on where your hand or your fingers are in reference to the knock, will either raise that knock up closer to your eye or lower it away. So similar to gap shooting, you have to find your crawls. So with string walking, it's a very similar process to finding your gap in gap shooting, but instead of changing where your point is on the target, you're changing where your hand is on the string, and you're always anchoring in the same spot. So you would want to start at 5 yards again. You would adjust the string in your normal place, shoot. Your arrow's going to probably end up high, and then you're going to continue working your way down the string until eventually your point on at 5 yards, at that point in the string, is point on the target. And that's how you know you've found your crawl for 5 yards. And you just keep doing that 5 yards at a time, working your way back until you know your crawls. And some people, even if you shoot a tab, mark your tab so you can put your hand on the string. You know, you would find your crawl and then you would crawl down. Some people do that. So the next thing I'll talk about is a fixed crawl, and basically what it is it's a combination of string walking and gap shooting. It basically uses string walking principles, but it's used in a way to control gaps for gap shooting. So basically what it'll be is you'll choose your point on, and you'll make it extremely reasonable, whether it's 30 yards, 25, whatever you choose. And you find your crawl for that yardage to where your point on is hitting dead on at that crawl, and you'll mark that spot on your string. And what it does is, when you're past that yardage, is up to a certain point, 10, 15 yards past it, your gap is only going to be 8 inches or so above where your point on is, which is, on a deer as a reference, is roughly the back of it. So your gap is shooting at the back of the deer to hit the kill zone, versus if you're on this side of your point on, the deer is closer than your point on, you'd aim right in the crevice of the shoulder, and that would get you, or right at the belly where the shoulder meet, and that'll get you right in the kill zone. And that's the principle of the fixed crawl. So the final type of shooting that I'm going to discuss is split vision, which is combining gap shooting and instinctive shooting. Now basically what you're doing is you're shooting instinctive, but you still use the arrow point as a reference. So you'll bring the bow up, you'll draw, you'll have instinctively aimed at this point, and you're basically referencing the arrow point and just kind of checking it off, saying, yep, that looks right. And then you'll shoot. And that's what split vision is. It's just kind of a self-check to instinctive. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this week's video. If you'd like me to go into more detail about any of these, or make individual videos for each one, showing how you would actually find your gap, showing how you would find your fixed crawls, let me know. I will probably do a video on each one over the course of time, but if you would like to see one sooner rather than later, just let me know and I'll be more than happy to make that video for you. As far as next week's video is concerned, I plan on doing some bear shaft tuning to help those who need to tune your arrows, because hopefully by the time you're watching this video, your form might be getting good enough to where you actually want to tune some arrows in to the point where they're flying pretty good. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment, always love reading them. Hit the like button if you will, and always remember to subscribe if you haven't. Until next time.